sprawling and flat, and then suddenly, a bunch of giant towers. Here it is in Minneapolis, and in Charlotte, and in Seattle. But compare that to almost any European city and you'll get a much smoother progression of buildings with lots that are of an in-between size. When I criticize American car-dependent suburbs, there's a common knee-jerk reaction. Someone will inevitably claim, "I live in the suburbs because I don't want to be crammed into a concrete box in the sky," as if there's no alternative between a concrete tower and car-dependent suburbia with asphalt as far as the eye can see. Now, you might just dismiss this person as being an ignorant idiot, and to be fair, they probably are. But there's a small bit of reality in that statement, because in most of the US and much of Canada, those are your only two options to live: an apartment or a single-family home. There's almost nothing in between. Urban planners have dubbed this the missing middle problem, and it affects almost every city in the US and Canada with very, very few exceptions. As with most things wrong with urban planning in America, this all started in the 1940s when cities started promoting car-centric suburbanization with an emphasis on every family owning their own detached home. Now, if single-family homes were built because people wanted single-family homes and the market demanded it, that might be okay, but it's not that simple. Instead, it became almost impossible to build.
Why is every urban planning YouTube channel always giving me neolib vibes, though? Like,
anything other than single-family homes because of strict Euclidean zoning. I've referred to this before in my livable
I don't think it's okay, even if the market demands it, like, exclusively building... Okay.
Neighborhoods video. And zoning is not the only problem either. There are other car-centric policies, especially minimum parking requirements, that reinforce this as well. All of these requirements severely constrain what can be built. In particular, it makes it almost impossible to build the traditional walkable neighborhoods that are enjoyable, efficient, sustainable, and financially solvent.
As Chet Hanks' Channel 5 doc come out?
Problem is endemic across the U.S. If you look at areas of a U.S. city where residential buildings are permitted, you find that almost all of it only allows for single-family homes. It's illegal to build anything else. The worst offender here is San Jose, where 94% of the land that allows building housing only permits building single-family homes. And this is in the heart of Silicon Valley, where more housing is desperately needed. Canadian cities are much better, but still far too high. Remember, what this means is that developers must build single-family homes in these areas, even if there's demand for something else. There's no other choice. This ultimately leads to a scarcity in residential land for any other type of building, and even then, nearby residents can object to almost any development, which means that every new development is going to be a fight. This is a major reason why developers build condo towers so often in the US and Canada, because getting zoning approval isn't cheap or easy, and fighting NIMBYs isn't cheap or easy either. So a developer is only going to put the effort into jumping through all of these hoops if they're sure they can make a profit in the end. That means making the absolute most of the scarce residential land, and ultimately that means cramming in as many residents as possible. Which is why you end up with this insane situation of the lowest density single-family homes next to giant high-rise towers in the most expensive city in Canada. But of course, it didn't used to be this way. Consider this street in Toronto built in the 1920s. Here you can see detached homes of various different sizes, like this cute blue house, or this small bungalow. There are also several terraced homes like these. And this looks like a single house, but it's actually several apartments in one building. But it still fits in very neatly into the neighborhood. Then there's this very small apartment block too. And these small terraced homes that have clearly seen better days. And finally, at the end of the street, there's commercial buildings like this one within easy walking distance of residents. And apartments were built over most of the shops as well. Today, it is nearly impossible to find any place in the US or Canada where all of these different types of buildings would be legal to build on the same street. Something that would be completely...
This is not ugly at all. What the fuck do you mean? I don't think this is ugly.
...normal before the 1940s. But even if you could get the zoning variances to build this small multi-unit building, which you can't, the neighbors would absolutely lose their minds. We can't have people of marginally lower socioeconomic status in our neighborhood, and what if their skin color was different? Could you imagine? So instead, we get a 40-story condo tower down the street. The situation in Europe...
Okay, he's definitely not a fucking annoying neoliberal yimby, because I feel like neolib yimbys, like, they think it's like a slur. They're like, you know how like the TERFs in the UK try to make it so that like TERF is a slur? I feel like neolibs are like, wow, you said luxury condominium. You must fucking hate housing for homeless people, you fucking piece of shit. Actually, luxury condominiums just mean more opened up housing opportunities for rich people who will leave their houses and then go live in those fucking luxury condos instead. And then those houses that they left will magically be occupied by the homeless people. And like the prices will get lower and lower. Obviously, that's just how it works. Supply and demand, idiot. Read a fucking Econ 101 textbook, dumbass. Come on. Totally works in famously has worked in all of these cities.
Europe is very different. Here in the Netherlands, for example, you'll very often see mid-rise buildings that are 5 floors or less, and many terraced homes as well. It is possible to find single-family homes too, of course, but it's not the only type of housing available. This street, in Duivendrecht, an utterly normal city near Amsterdam, has terraced homes mixed with semi-detached homes and small apartment buildings, all in the same place.
Terrorist.
This provides so much more choice in the housing market, especially for families. Not everybody wants to maintain a big house with a big yard and live in a place where you have to drive to do just about anything. And it also allows for the type of enjoyable, livable, walkable urban neighborhoods that I'm constantly praising on this channel as being some of the best places in the world to live. You can even live in a concrete box in the sky, if you like that kind of thing. So maybe you don't like these kind of homes, and that's okay, they don't like you either. But even if you don't like these kind of homes, you have to justify why it is illegal to build these kind of homes in almost every neighborhood in the US and Canada. Now, of course, eliminating single-family zoning doesn't eliminate single-family homes. These houses can still be built if there's demand for it. It just means they would no longer be the only type of homes that can be built. Thankfully,
my problem with these sorts of like upzoning Andes is that a lot of the people that are in favor of upzoning, a lot of the people that are in favor of like eliminating single-family housing zoning restrictions that currently exist, unironically, fucking don't want to place any restrictions on what can be built. Okay? Right now, in many places, there are minimum zoning restrictions. Like if you want to build a house, you have to build single family housing, and it has to be like on square footage, like a certain square footage of a lot. Okay, so I think like in my area, it's like 5,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet is the lot. And people want to be able to build multiple houses on there. Like you can build 2 houses on there. You don't want to have restrictions on you want to be able to build a duplex. You want to be able to build like multiple homes, right? On that lot. Make better use of that. Make it cheaper. The problem is, in many circumstances, I fear that like I don't have an issue with that, by the way. Let me just specify it real quick. I do not have an issue with upzoning. What I do have an issue, however, is with like not having any fucking restrictions on what kind of housing you can build on top of it. So then all of a sudden, you have like little fucking sheds that you're still charging $3,000 a month on rent on, and it's not actually helping save or create more affordable housing. Now, ultimately, the best thing to do is still public housing. Okay? Socialized housing is always the ultimate goal. That is what should happen. What do you mean? It's not like allowing for other types of houses doesn't mean you will be able to build anything you like? That's like a slippery slope argument? No, it's not. It's not cheaper. You still charge the same. That's what I'm saying. Like, all of a sudden, if you don't have any sort of restrictions on what you can do and what like the minimum quality can look like on these houses, like the restrictions that you place on what kind of housing can be built, all of a sudden you're fucking converting a goddamn ADU in the back into a single bedroom studio apartment because you slapped in a fucking toilet in there, and you're charging like, you know, $3,000 a month in rent, and it's just another revenue stream for you. And I feel like you can't just like, you know, that's not addressing the needs at all. How do you get called a NIMBY over this shit? I don't know. People are just mad.
Some cities in North America are starting to make some progress with this issue. In 2019, Minneapolis abolished single-family zoning and now allows building duplexes and triplexes in any neighborhood in the city. Vancouver has recently made it possible to build duplexes in all residential neighborhoods, though not triplexes. And even better legislation means that Portland can once again build housing that used to be considered normal, such as fourplexes and cottage courts, which are several small homes around a common yard. These cities are taking a good step forward, but they're still very much in the minority. And unfortunately, other regulations, such as setbacks, lot coverage rules, or minimum parking requirements, can still make it difficult to build anything other than single-family homes. Also, even with these zoning changes, there are still far too many dense but livable housing options that are not permitted, such as courtyard buildings, townhouses, and small apartment buildings. Ultimately, if US and Canadian cities want to succeed, they're going to have to start undoing car-centric housing policy, and ending single-family zoning to make the missing middle legal again is a good first step.
And the other really bad part of this problem is that, as is the case with most issues under capitalism, everything is interconnected. You can't eliminate parking. You can't eliminate parking requirements in zoning without also adding better public transportation opportunities. Because if you were to fucking upzone in areas like that with no public transportation or very limited public transportation, then all of a sudden you got a situation in which, like, well, people are fucked. You know what I mean? How are they going to commute? It's yet another circumstance where, you know, greedy manufacturers, car manufacturers in the past, have been able to develop cities that exclusively rely on the independence and freedom that the modern automobile offers.
And then they can start to bring back the enjoyable, walkable neighborhoods they used to build without having to live in a concrete box in the sky. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon.
So sad, man. Do you believe that individual houses should exist in an ideal socialist world? Yes. What an insane question, dude. No, socialism is when everyone is forced to live in a fucking commune with random people that they don't want to live with. Sorry, I was wrong. Socialism means no house. And the less house...
On who pay me to film?
Damn, dude, least you could do is... What? Make him promote his content? What? Dude, these fucking freaks are still in here, dude. The fucking weirdos who are like, Hasan steals content all the time. Welcome to the fucking internet, okay? Shut the fuck up. Oh no, I said this, now they're gonna fucking make another like 11-hour podcast. I'm sure Not Just Bikes has does not have an issue with me watching one of his videos. I'd be very surprised if he did, but if he did, then, you know, I would not watch his channel. Wow, now that you're a homeowner, you're advocating for single family homes? No, I even before I was a fucking homeowner, I understand like having multiple different types of residences, dude. My entire life I have lived in I'm living in I don't know what this would be considered. It's like an apartment. I'm subjecting so many fucking people to unfair punishments by screaming every fucking day. Thank you, Ice Hook Penis, for the 5 gifted subs. Your content has gotten boring and repetitive ever since Bruno and his great values left. Republican gamer.